Hello and welcome back to the Motorsport Baithak podcast. I'm your host Didi, and joining me once again today is my friend and your co-host Vedant. On this episode, we'll be talking about the second season of W Series, which commences in Austria this weekend. So let's grab some chai, take our seats, ready opinions, and dive right into the conversation. Hello Vedant, it's great to have you here to discuss the upcoming W Series season starting in Austria this weekend. This will be the first time that W Series will be supporting the F1 races throughout the 2021 season, and they'll be at 8 of those rounds. Now, as we all know, that W Series started in October 2018 and has been called a pure spec series, and we'll get into why it is called a pure spec series and why and what exactly W Series is looking to accomplish, and why it's so important in the world of motorsport today, and why it has been chosen to be at the Formula One races this season finally. But at the core of it, W Series is a free-to-enter championship that provides equal opportunities for women and eliminates the financial barriers that have historically prevented them from progressing to the upper echelons of motorsport. And it also has a $500,000 prize money at the end of the season. The mission statement for W Series says that they want to build the world's most popular and inclusive female sporting series that inspires and empowers females to be a part of motorsport on equal terms with men. And in the process, they hope to create a platform to accelerate gender equality the world over. And as we all know, it's been 45 years, over 45 years since a female driver last started a championship Formula One Grand Prix, and it's pretty sad, that we're in this state. But hopefully, W Series will bring about that change, and we will soon see a Formula One driver, or a female Formula One driver on the grid. We know there are already a couple Formula One drivers like Jamie Chadwick who are reserve drivers for Williams, and I think Tatiana Calderon for Alfa Romeo Racing. But we'd like to see them on the grid racing and not just as reserve drivers. Also, interestingly, W Series drivers are selected purely on their ability. So the selection is through invitation, and then they go through pre-season testing, and the 20 best drivers are selected, 18 of which race on the grid across 8 races. That is their season, but 2 reserve drivers in case any of the drivers can't race at any of the venues. But why don't you walk us through all the races that W Series is going to be present this season with Formula One, supporting Formula One?
Yeah, definitely. So W Series is starting with Austria, as we know, and they will be with Formula One at the double header. Then at Silverstone, which is an absolutely beautiful circuit, and which will be great for the drivers to drive there. Then in Hungary at Hungaroring, at Spa-Francorchamps, and at Zandvoort, which is obviously a new track which Formula One is going to. And for the first time, W Series will venture outside Europe. They did not venture outside Europe last season in 2019. So, and it's the first time they'll be going outside Europe to USA, Austin, and to Mexico City. So 8 rounds there.
Yep. And hopefully, I'm hoping to attend the Austin round of the F1 calendar, and hopefully, I'll see some W Series racing there. But anyway, why don't you tell us more about the W Series car and the specs and the rules and regulations regarding qualifying and the race, because the W Series doesn't follow the usual Formula 2 and Formula 3 format of qualifying, point system, and races.
Yeah, so W Series is essentially a Formula 3 series. They are homologated to the Formula 3 specifications by FIA. It's a Tartus F3 T318 car, which was essentially the same car which the Asian Formula 3 guys used back in January. It's not directly comparable. It's directly comparable with them, but it's not directly comparable with other regional Formula 3 cars, because obviously the make is different and the characteristics may be different, but essentially at the core of it, it's a Formula 3 car.
Making W Series a Formula 3 regional series.
Yeah. The rounds are 1 free practice, qualifying, and a race. The free practice is 30 minutes. the qualifying session is of 30 minutes, where you have to put in at least one timed lap in order to qualify for the race. And I believe the 107% rule will still apply, because
I think it's a 110% rule for W Series instead of 107%.
And yeah, the race is 30 minutes plus one lap.
So something similar to Formula E, instead of having a set number of laps like F2 and F3 usually do. Absolutely. But now let's dive into why the W Series is a pure spec series. So for those who don't know, what makes W Series a pure spec series is that there is no concept of teams. So High Tech GP runs the entire series, the technical side of the entire series, and all the drivers use basically the same car, but by saying that they use the same car doesn't mean they're using the same chassis every race. They use a different chassis every race. The chassis are swapped every race, and not just that, even race engineers are swapped every race. So none of the drivers who drive the same chassis or work with the same race engineer at any 2 weekends during the course of the season, which is what makes it a pure spec series. So what it does is basically it eliminates any factors such as one race engineer being more experienced than the other, one chassis suiting the driver more than the other chassis, because even though it's the same make, the chassis might still have a tiny differences in manufacturing, and they might behave a little differently, although there is definitely some leeway into how they set up the car and the different parameters that they can use to make the car more suitable to their driving style. However, you'll think that what happens if a chassis is damaged, is that still put in the lottery, and is it still swapped out with another driver who had a good chassis at the end of the race? Absolutely not. If a driver damages a chassis and needs to be repaired, the driver will have to race with the same chassis in the next round. So all of these factors make the W Series a pure spec series, and not just a spec series like IndyCar or F2 or F3, where variables such as race engineer experience and stuff like that, how good the team is, how much funds the team has, can play an important role in how well the drivers perform on track at the end of the day. And some people have even come out and said that that W Series is one of the fairest series in motorsport, and maybe a lot more series should adopt this structure. But at the same time, motorsport is as much of an athletic sport for drivers as much as it for engineers, and engineers surely want to also enjoy a part of the series that includes rules and regulations like F1, where they can innovate, develop, and set up their cars at every weekend instead of working with the same set of cars. And they don't want to be in an environment where they're restricted to doing only so many things. But at the end of the day, if you're watching W Series and if you're supporting a certain driver, there couldn't be any other series that showcases driver skill and basically decides the championship or decides the winner purely based on driver skill more than the W Series.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even their selection process, as you mentioned earlier, is based on pure skill. No matter how rich your parents or your backers are, no matter anything other than your skill and your pure pace. So that's one of the most exciting things about W Series, because it is absolutely head to head. It's like, even in Formula 3 and all these places where we have spec series, as you said, the teams do play a major factor, and we have seen Team Prema absolutely dominate Formula 2 and Formula 3 in the recent seasons. So yeah, it's going to be a healthy breakaway from those usual.
Yeah, absolutely. And to reiterate, the biggest factor is that the drivers have to pay absolutely nothing to enter the championship. They can race for a whole season for absolutely free, and like the organizer of WCD said, all the drivers have to pay is for the cab that they take from their house to the airport and back. That is all that the drivers pay. Everything is covered by W Series, whether that's the cost of going racing, hotels, food, you name it, and it is covered by W Series.
Yeah, I mean, which is why their inclusion in the Formula 1 calendar and as a support series is very important, because that would bring in crucial revenue, crucial streaming revenue and crucial sponsorship revenue. So that's it's a good thing that Formula 1 and FIA have done this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just that, obviously, like you said, there's benefits to W Series supporting the F1 and getting more airtime and more people, getting to know W Series and the participants in W Series, and getting those female drivers that much face time with the fans and with the media. But it doesn't end there, W Series is also backed by a lot of prominent members of the motorsport community, including, former F1 driver David Coulthard and, our very favorite engineer, Adrian Newey. So a lot of F1 people are involved with W Series directly. So it was kind of surprising when W Series didn't get as much media attention and as much hype when it came out in 2018. Obviously, they had the 2019 season, which was their first season, and then over 2020, they didn't have a season due to COVID. But it'll be great to have the series back again this year. But let's look back and let's talk about some of the drivers that are participating in this series. We all know about Jamie Chadwick, especially people who follow Formula One have heard of her, and she is the reigning champion for W Series, and she bagged the development driver role right after that at Williams, I believe. Once she won the championship. We also have Alice Powell, who had stopped racing but was brought back by W Series back into racing when they did their inaugural season. And she will also be racing in the second season. She finished third. And then Martha Garcia, who finished fourth in the inaugural season. And then, Beatske Visser, who was the runner-up by 10 points in the inaugural season, is also someone to look out for this season.
Yeah, definitely. And Jessica Hawkins, the Aston Martin, I believe she's the ambassador or something. I'm not entirely sure about her role in Aston Martin. But she is another star to watch out for in W Series. I mean, she did not have a good first season, but from what I have heard and read online, I think she is someone to watch out for.
Yeah, and we also have a fan favorite, Abby Eaton, for all the Grand Tour fans out there. Abby Eaton will be competing in the second edition of the W Series. So, you guys who've seen Grand Tour and, who love Abby Eaton, go out and support her this season and, help her win, basically. But at the same time, it's interesting that W Series the super license points for W Series is in comparison with Indy Lights, Super Formula Lights, NASCAR Cup Series, Aussie Supercar Championship, but lesser than Asian F3. So it's kind of weird in that sense. But hopefully, in a couple of seasons, they will move up the ladder, especially since the equipment they're using and the way they go racing is somewhat similar to the F3 regional championships like we've talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, it's surprising because all these other championships are outside the Formula 1 ladder and they really don't matter when you are into the Formula 1 ladder, that FIA pyramid. But it's strange to see them not at comparison with the Asian F3, where even though they share the same machinery.
Yep. Absolutely. But hopefully, it's going to be a good season. F2 and F3 have had a great season so far. It's been action-packed, and the championship has been really, really close in both those categories. So hopefully, W Series will be just as exciting this season for the spectators to watch. But that's all from my side regarding the W Series preview for the second season, Vedant. Anything from your side?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to remind our viewers, our listeners, sorry, that even though W Series is using a FIA F3 homologated machinery and all that stuff, it won't be fair to compare them with the F3 racing going on alongside. So just a reminder, because I know we'll see people jump the gun on Twitter and online other places and comment why it's a waste of money and it's a waste of time and why, and I mean all these other things. But it's just a gentle reminder that please do not compare W Series with any other series, any other F3 homologated series for that matter.
And I think there's there's a bigger message with the W Series in itself, and it doesn't matter what the lap times are as long as we are furthering the cause of the W Series, and especially since it's a merit-based series, you can't really poke fingers at the series and say this is a waste of time and money, because what they're doing is basically promoting, they're definitely empowering women and moving towards gender equality and all, but from a pure motorsport perspective, they're also, they're awarding merit, they're awarding skills, they're
Absolutely.
awarding, stuff like that, and everything else that is a part of motorsport is thrown out of the window, that we all don't like. We've all been talking about how Formula 1, Formula 2, and Formula 3 need to lower the barrier to entry in terms of how much financial commitment they need, and W Series has done that from the very outset. So there's a lot of good things that W Series has done, and it is up to us to go out there and support the series that is trying to make uh, such an impact, such an important impact, such an important change in the world. So yeah, I would definitely encourage our listeners to go out and support the W Series in their own way, whether it's through watching the W Series, spectating it, talking about it on Twitter and social media, or just supporting the drivers that they like. But yeah, that's all from our side. Thank you, Vedant, for joining me again in this week's podcast, and we'll catch you all on the next one.